welcome to another episode of the C-Suite Edge podcast. I'm your host, John Light. I'm also the CEO and founder of Sabertooth Recruiting. And today, I've got Kelly Finnell from EFS ESOP Consultants, and we're going to talk about employee stock option programs. Do I have it right there, Kelly?
Yeah, it's employee stock ownership plans, but the concept is close.
It's, close enough for government work, maybe. I don't know, but
Exactly.
I think it's an interesting concept because you can do a lot with it. And I'm curious, as we get started, if you could kind of take 90 seconds and bring us forward from where you started to what got you here in this ESOP space.
Well, I was in law school, had just finished my first year, and I had the opportunity to move to Massachusetts from Memphis, Tennessee, and have an adventurous summer, make more money than I would have made as a clerk in Memphis, and see a new part of the country. And so I worked for a firm that specialized in retirement plans.
Mm-hmm.
And this is 1979. So ERISA, the law that codified most of the rules that we work with today on retirement plans, was only 5 years old. And the head of the department got a letter. Back then, this was before email. It was a letter delivered by the U.S. Postal Service. And he said that we have a client who is requesting a white paper on the subject of ESOPs.
Okay.
And so all of these pension lawyers looked around at each other, and they all said, we don't know anything about ESOPs. It's only been in the law 5 years. Nobody's asked about it. We're going to assign this topic to the kid. And in 1979, I was the kid. And so I spent most of that summer reading and researching and writing about ESOPs, got out of law school a couple of years later, and have been in this business ever since.
Interesting. So not only did you go from the South to the Northeast, which I'm sure was a culture shock at a number of different levels, you also had this project thrown at you because they didn't want it. And it turned out to be your career, which is kind of cool in a way.
Yeah. And I know in your conversations with people, you find so many business owners who are doing what they're doing and are very successful, but it was all just because of a lucky circumstance. And that was the case for me.
Okay. Well, sometimes luck or providence can play a huge role, and it's good to see it and acknowledge it and be able to feel it. So let me ask you this. I think the biggest question I have coming in, and this is for just about every guest, because in my world, we try to solve one problem. We end up solving a whole bunch, but there's always one big, gnarly problem we focus on. So I'm curious, when you look at the ESOP world and the work you do, what's the biggest problem you solve for your clients and I suppose by extension for your participants in these plans?
Yeah. Well, I was born right in the middle of the baby boom. And so almost all of our clients are baby boomer business owners. So the baby boom was that generation that was born between 46 and 64. And there are lots of business owners out there, and this describes most of our clients who want a liquidity event. They want to sell their company for the maximum price possible, but the dilemma is often they know that if they do that it's going to expose their employees who have helped them build this business to lots of potential problems. The entire culture of the company is going to change, and that's going to be for the detriment of the employees and the company's customers and clients. And so they need and want to have a liquidity event. They want to cash in on their life's work, but they want to do that while protecting and rewarding the people who have helped them get to where they are. So that's the problem, and oftentimes an ESOP is the solution.
So let me ask you this. When you look across the landscape of businesses, what businesses would likely be the right fit for the solution?
Well, there are some financial metrics that are important. And so in order to be a good candidate for an ESOP, a business needs to have EBITDA, earnings before interest, taxes, depreciation, and amortization, of at least $2 million. So I often say that ESOPs are not for micro-sized companies, but they work well in small to mid-sized businesses. In addition to that, many of our clients are hyper-focused on company culture and maintaining that. They know that it is often the key to their success, and so they want to be sure that when they have this liquidity event, that they have a mechanism for making sure that company culture will continue unchanged. They know that if they sell to a third party, that's not going to happen. Culture is destined to change when you lose control of the business. And so because of that focus on culture, and ESOP often is the answer, they also often see the company as part of their legacy. They might view the company as one of their children. And I've had business owners tell me, I've had a business in this city with my family's name on it for 100+ years, and I want to make sure that continues. And I know if I sell to a big conglomerate or to private equity, that the name's going to go away. And I just don't want that for my children and grandchildren and their children. And so those are the things that we see that really drive business owners to be interested in good candidates for ESOPs.
Well, it's interesting to me too. I mean, if you're a business owner and you've been running this business for a decade or 2 decades or 3 or whatever the number of years might be, you do want to leave something behind. And I think you're absolutely right. If a PE comes in and buys, you're liable to be a part of a roll-up, or it's going to get stripped down and sold in pieces, or whatever it might be. They're not going to let grass grow under their feet, right?
Yes.
But when you talk about bringing in, especially people with tenure who are impactful or been impacted by the company, and they have a ton of influence in the company, I mean, that just seems to make a lot of sense from, I guess you'd say, a symmetrical point of view.
Yeah.
You know, they've earned the right to reap some of those rewards, I think.
Yeah. I often refer to our clients that are good candidates for ESOPs as compassionate capitalists.
Okay.
They want to do well for themselves and their families, while at the same time taking care of others. The obvious others are their employees and their customers, but our clients often are very charitably inclined as well. Mm-hmm. And so often when they do the ESOP, they set up some type of charitable giving mechanism for a small portion of their sales proceeds. One of the other characteristics of an ESOP is the greed factor. Mm-hmm. And so I have this thing I call the greed scale. And on one end of the greed scale is Mother Teresa. Mm-hmm. And on the other end is Gordon Gekko. And in order to be a good candidate for an ESOP, you don't have to be Mother Teresa. You're going to get full value for your company, but you can't be Gordon Gekko, thinking only about yourself and trying to squeeze the last penny out of the deal. And so that alternative personality is what I call a compassionate capitalist.
Interesting. So let me ask you this. When you go to do one of these ESOPs, and especially in a family-owned business, small or medium-sized family-owned business who meets your EBITDA criteria, and they may or may not have children who are interested in the day-to-day, right? So they need management in place who's going to continue things, and those people are probably already there, and this is a way of bringing them into the fold. But it's got to create some sticky situations to navigate.
You know, that's one of the things that I enjoy so much about ESOPs is that they're infinitely challenging. One of the challenges is all of the technical and legal challenges, but the even bigger challenge is the human challenge.
Right.
And so you're right. There are family situations. There are interpersonal dynamics between the owner and that senior leadership team that you referenced. And so it takes a village to do an ESOP. And so we have consultants that we work with very closely that specialize in dealing with those family in interpersonal dynamics, and we'll bring them in. This company that I mentioned to you earlier that I'm going to be in Dallas the next few days, and that's the perfect example of a situation where we were dealing with those family and generational issues. And I brought in a consultant that we work with who has just done a beautiful job getting all of that resolved. And so this ESOP's been around 4 or 5 years now, and the company's working well, and all of the people are working well together. And it was a business that was over 100 years old.
Wow.
And the older the business, the more challenging those dynamics are.
Oh, I'm sure they're entrenched. I mean,
yeah.
I had a client not terribly long ago where the CEO is third generation. Business has been around over 70 years. And, the fortunate thing is that, okay, here's your decision maker. The unfortunate thing is that there was this bubble around this person in terms of they didn't know what they didn't know about business, or in this case, about using our recruitment services, and it made for a sticky wicket along the way. We got the search done. In fact, the record time, I think it was 19 days start to finish. No, 16 days start to finish for their new controller. But holy moly, there's just this barrier against, but that's not the way we've done it. That's not the way Dad did it, or his dad. Yeah. Well, this isn't 70, 75 years ago either, in terms of how we attract talent or in how we run our business processes. Not to say that one's right, one's wrong, but there are certain efficiencies to be garnered by moving into the current decade, so to speak.
Yeah. And, recruitment is a key component of an ESOP. An ESOP can give a company a very strong competitive advantage when it comes to recruiting. And so a couple of years ago, BDO Seaton, one of the largest accounting and consulting firms in the country, did an ESOP. One of the reasons for doing it was to use it as a vehicle to buy out that senior generation of partners. But one of the really important reasons was to provide them a competitive advantage over the other accounting and consulting firms, where you would have to work for 8 to 10 years in order to become a partner and have equity in the business. With an ESOP, you can provide that after the first year. And so that can give BDO and companies like that a huge competitive advantage when it comes time to recruit new talent.
Yeah. No, absolutely. Absolutely. I'm curious, this just popped in my head. When you set an ESOP up for a new client, what's a typical timeline? I mean, from start to finish? I know it could probably vary widely, but I'm curious to know, what kind of time commitment and resource commitment would a company have to look at?
It's usually a 5 to 6 month process. And so that's normally a shorter period of time than it would take for a company to sell to private equity.
Yeah.
But it's not an overnight solution. And so business owners need to plan and need to understand going into it that we're not going to close this deal in the next 30 days. It's going to take time to get it done and to get it done right.
Yeah, well, getting it done right, that's the key, isn't it? I mean,
it is. These plans are governed by the IRS and the Department of Labor, so you want to make sure that you dot all the I's and cross all the T's.
Yeah, no kidding. I mean, because once you cast that die, can you get a second bite at the apple if something went haywire?
Yeah, I have clients who almost apologetically tell me sometimes that, thanks for setting up this ESOP for us 20 years ago. I hate to tell you this, but it feels like it's time to dissolve it. And I tell them, look, this was a financial instrument that was designed to achieve some goals that you had 20 years ago. It might not still be appropriate today, and you didn't marry this ESOP. You didn't make a lifetime commitment. And if you feel like it's time to terminate it and to pay off the employees and to make the ESOP go away and adopt a new strategy, we'll help you do that.
Yeah, good. Well, let me ask you this, because I know from our pre-show conversation there's a variety of other challenges and other features and benefits you can find in the ESOP world. If someone wants to learn more, Kelly, what's the best way for folks to find you and get in touch?
Probably the best avenue is to go to our website, www.execfin.com. There they'll find lots of educational information. We've got links to articles that me and my partner have written. We've got a link so that you can buy the book that I wrote on ESOPs, which is called the ESOP Coach. And it can be a very valuable resource for business owners that are considering an ESOP.
Well, if somebody wanted to find that book, is it on Amazon?
It is.
The ESOP Coach.
Yes.
Okay, so if they want to have a conversation with you but not chase you down in the ether, they can just run out to Amazon and buy the book and get some insights into how the gears turn on this.
Yep, it's a 200-page book, but just read the first chapter. The first chapter is what I would tell you in an initial phone conversation.
You're not gonna pull one of those teaching assistants in college stunts, are you? Just read the first couple chapters, and the test is on the other 18.
Yeah, I don't know anybody who's read the entire book. The first half of it it's written for business owners. So the first half of it is a business owner language explanation of what an ESOP is and how it works, and then there are 6 or 7 chapters of case studies, because that's the way real people learn best, is by finding a situation that looks like theirs, reading that case study, and then asking questions.
Yeah. Well, Kelly, I've learned a lot pre-show and during the show. Thanks so much for joining me today on the C-Suite Edge.
Thank you very much, John. I enjoyed it.